If you had to survive for months, not dozing what's already in your house, most pantries would fail within the first 2 weeks. Not because people didn't buy food, but because they bought the wrong food. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When money gets tight and supplies get shaky, variety stops mattering. Calories matter. Shelf life matters. Foods that actually work without power matter. Right now, families are quietly losing buying power every month. Prices don't crash back down, they reset higher. And when shortages hit, it's not the luxury items that disappear first. It's the cheap, dependable staples. So the real question isn't, what should I buy? It's if I could only afford to store a few things. What would actually keep my family fed? In this video, I'm breaking survival down to its core. No gimmicks, no expensive freeze-dried meals, bunker fantasy. Just 6 foods budget-friendly, long-lasting, and proven that can carry a family through real disruption. If you're serious about preparedness, but realistic about money, this list matters. Because when things get harder, you won't wish you had more options. You'll wish you chose the right ones. Why most pantries fail? Most pantries don't fail because people ignored preparedness. They fail because people prepared the wrong way. Families tend to stock what feels familiar: snacks, boxed meals, freezer food, and whatever's on sale that week. That works in normal times. But in a real disruption, those foods expose 3 major weaknesses: short shelf life, low calories, and high dependency on power and resupply. Here's the first hard truth. Modern grocery shopping assumes tomorrow will look like today. Refrigeration, frequent restocking, and just-in-time supply chains are baked into how we eat. When even one of those breaks down, power outages, transportation delays, sudden price spikes, most pantries unravel fast. The second problem is cost illusion. Many families spend more money on food that looks substantial, but delivers very little survival value. Snacks, cereals, flavored convenience foods, they're expensive per calorie and disappear quickly. You feel stocked. Until you do the math, then you realize you paid premium prices for food that barely feeds anyone. And here's the biggest misconception of all. People think preparedness means more variety. In reality, long-term survival is built on reliable repetition. Foods that store well, foods you can cook with minimal fuel. Foods that stretch, combine, and scale for families, not just individuals. Your pantry isn't a menu. It's a system. A system that must work when you can't shop for weeks, you're cooking under stress. Money is tighter than expected. That's why most pantries fail. They were built for comfort, not continuity. Instead of asking, do I like this food? The smarter question is, would this still work if I couldn't replace it for 60 days? That's the standard we're using. And once you apply that filter, the list of foods that truly matter gets very short, starting with food number 1. Food number 1, white rice. If long-term survival were a math problem, white rice would be the answer. This is the food that quietly carries more families through hard times than almost anything else, and yet it's one of the most misunderstood pantry staples out there. People dismiss rice as boring or empty. In a crisis, that mindset gets people hungry fast. Here's the reality. Survival starts with calories, and white rice delivers them cheaply, predictably, and at scale. 1 pound of white rice provides roughly 1,600 calories. It's shelf-stable, compact, and easy to store in bulk. When stored properly, sealed in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers and kept cool and dry, white rice can last 25 to 30 years. That's not a typo. Decades. Now, here's a critical distinction most people miss. White rice, not brown rice. Brown rice contains natural oils that go rancid. Even under good conditions, it usually fails within 6 to 12 months. White rice has those oils removed, which is exactly why it lasts so long. From a budget standpoint, rice is almost unbeatable. Average bulk price, 70 cents to $1 per pound. Cost per 1,000 calories, well under $1. That means for the price of one takeout meal, can buy enough rice to feed a person for days. Preparation is another advantage. Rice can be cooked with minimal fuel, simmered slowly, or even cooked using retained heat methods when fuel is scarce. It doesn't require special spices or refrigeration. It just works. How much should you store? Minimum 25 pounds per person, better 50 to 75 pounds per person for long-term resilience for a family of 4. That sounds like a lot until you realize it's spread out over months of gradual buying. Common mistake: storing rice in original bags and assuming it's good enough. It's not. Moisture, oxygen, and pests will destroy it long before you need it. Key takeaway: rice isn't meant to be exciting. It's meant to be dependable. And when everything else becomes uncertain, dependable food is what keeps families steady. And rice alone isn't the solution, which is why the next food is just as important. Food number 2. Dry beans and lentils. Rice keeps you full. Right. Beans keep you functioning. This is where most budget pantries quietly fall apart. Protein. Meat disappears fast, prices spike early, and canned options get expensive if you rely on them long term. Dry beans and lentils solve that problem better than almost anything else. Here's the key insight experienced preppers understand. Rice plus beans isn't just tradition, it's survival science. When eaten together, rice and beans form a complete protein, meaning your body gets all essential amino acids it needs to maintain muscle, immunity, and energy under stress. Let's talk numbers. 1 pound of dry beans provides 1,400 to 1,600 calories, 90 to 100 grams of protein, high fiber, iron, potassium, and magnesium. That's real nutrition, not filler. Shelf life and storage. Properly stored dry beans last 10 to 15 years, sometimes longer. Same method as rice. Mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, food-grade buckets, lentils, and split peas deserve special mention. They cook faster and use significantly less fuel, which matters when energy is limited. Cost reality: dry beans, $1.50 per pound. Lentils, sometimes even cheaper in bulk. That's pennies per serving of protein, something no meat or freeze-dried meal can touch. Preparation in a crisis: yes, beans require cooking, but there are smart ways to reduce fuel. Overnight soaking cuts cook time by up to 50%. Thermal cooking, bringing to a boil. Then insulating saves fuel. Lentils can cook in 15 to 20 minutes. How much to store? Minimum 20 to 25 pounds per person. Ideal 40 to 60 pounds per person. Mix is best. Larger beans for long-term storage, lentils for low fuel days. Common mistake: relying only on canned beans. They're convenient, but expensive, heavy, and short-lived compared to dry. Bottom line: if rice is the foundation, beans are the structure. Together, they turn cheap calories into real survival food. And now comes the most overlooked part of long-term food planning, the one that determines whether your body actually uses those calories. Food number 3. Cooking oil. This is where most pantries quietly fail. People stock carbs. Some remember protein. Almost nobody stores enough fat. That's a serious problem because without fat, survival calories don't work the way people expect. It isn't optional in a crisis. It's the most calorie-dense food you can store, and a requirement for basic body function under stress. Here's the math most people never do. Fat contains 9 calories per gram. Carbs and protein only have 4 calories per gram. That means fat delivers more than double the energy in the same space. 1 gallon of cooking oil provides roughly 30,000 calories. It's more energy than sacks of dry food, and it weighs far less. Why fat matters in survival: keeps body weight and strength from dropping too fast. Supports hormones and temperature regulation, allows absorption of vitamins A, D, E, and K, makes repetitive meals actually edible without fat. People feel weak even when they're eating enough. Best budget oils to store: vegetable oil, cheapest. Widely available canola oil, neutral flavor. Similar shelf life: coconut oil, solid, more stable, longer shelf life. Avoid relying on olive oil for long-term storage. It degrades faster and costs more. Shelf life reality: this is a rotation food, not a decades-long item. Most liquid oils: 1 to 2 years unopened coconut oil, 2 to 5 years when stored cool and dark. How much to store? Minimum 1 gallon per person. Better 2 to 3 gallons per person. Rotated yearly. Common mistake: storing 1 large jug and forgetting about it. 1 leak or spoilage event wipes out months of calories. Pro tip: store oil in multiple smaller containers and rotate it through normal cooking. Key takeaway: rice and beans keep you alive. Fat keeps you strong. And next, we'll cover a food so basic that most people forget it entirely until it's gone. Food number 4. Salt. This is the food nobody thinks about until they don't have it. Salt isn't just seasoning. In a long-term survival situation, it's a requirement. And skipping it is one of the fastest ways a pantry fails, even when there's plenty of food. Here's why. Your body needs sodium to regulate fluids, nerve signals, and muscle function. Under stress, especially in hot conditions or when doing physical work, you lose salt faster through sweat without replacing it. Fatigue, headaches, confusion, and weakness set in quickly. Why salt is non-negotiable, prevents electrolyte imbalance, makes staple foods edible long-term essential for food preservation curing. Pickling costs almost nothing and lasts forever. Rice and beans without salt get hard to eat fast. Appetite drops, calorie intake drops, morale drops. Types of salt to store: iodine salt, prevents iodine deficiency, especially important for children. Non-iodized salt, sea or kosher, required for long-term storage and food preservation. You want both. Shelf life and storage: shelf life. Indefinite, no oxygen absorbers needed, keep dry and sealed. Salt does not expire. It only clumps if exposed to moisture. How much to store? Minimum 5 pounds per person, better 10 to 15 pounds per person at current prices. That's some of the cheapest insurance you can buy. Common mistake: treating salt as optional because we don't use much now. Crisis conditions change needs fast. Key takeaway: you can survive weeks without variety. Can't survive long without salt. And next, we all move to a food that solves two problems at once: low fuel usage and daily routine stability. Food number 5. Rolled oats. This is the food that quietly saves you on your worst days. When fuel is limited, stress is high, and motivation is low, rolled oats keep people eating. And that matters more than most people realize. Here's the problem most families don't plan for in a long-term situation. You won't always have the energy or fuel to cook rice and beans multiple times a day. That's where oats step in. Why oats matter: quick to prepare, easy to digest, familiar and comforting, extremely fuel efficient. 1 pound of rolled oats contains roughly 1,700 to 1,800 calories, 70 to 75 grams. Protein, high fiber, for digestive stability. That's solid nutrition from a food that doesn't demand much from you. Shelf life and storage: when stored properly, Mylar plus oxygen absorbers. Rolled oats last 10 to 15 years, much longer than people expect. Avoid flavored or instant oats. They have shorter shelf lives, contain more sugar and additives, deliver fewer calories per dollar. Plain rolled oats are what you want. Preparation with no power: oats shine here. Hot water soak overnight, cold soak, short simmer with minimal fuel. You can even eat them semi-soft if fuel is extremely scarce. That flexibility is survival value. How much to store? Minimum 10 to 15 pounds per person, better 25 to 30 pounds per person. They don't take much space and rotate easily into normal breakfasts. Common mistake: only storing oats as a breakfast food. In reality, oats can be eaten anytime. Calories are needed fast. Key takeaway: oats don't replace rice, but they reduce stress, fuel use, and burnout. And now we reach the final food on this list, the one that bridges the gap when cooking simply isn't an option. Food number 6. Canned protein. This is the food you hope you need, but you'll be extremely glad you stored. Canned protein exists for one reason. Some days cooking just isn't realistic. Fuel runs low, you're exhausted, stress is high. That's when dry staples alone can become a liability. Canned protein fills that gap. Why canned protein matters: 0 cooking required, 0 soaking, 0 power needed. Immediate nutrition: it's not meant to replace rice and beans long term. It's meant to carry you through the hardest stretches. It's best options to store: canned chicken, neutral, versatile tuna, cheap, widely available sardines, high-fat omega-3s, calcium. Each can typically provides 20 to 25 grams of protein, some fat, and key micronutrients. That's enough to stabilize energy and prevent muscle loss during low-calorie days. Shelf life reality: most canned proteins last 3 to 5 years, often safe beyond best-by dates if cans aren't dented, no rust or swelling. Stored cool and dry: this makes canned protein a medium-term bridge food, not a forever staple. Much to store: think strategically, not emotionally. Minimum 1 can per person per week for the first month. Better 30 to 40 total cans per family. That gives you flexibility without draining your budget. Common mistake depending on canned meat as your primary protein source. It's too expensive, heavy, and limited for that role. Pro tip: rotate canned protein into normal meals so nothing goes to waste. Final takeaway: dry foods sustain you. Canned protein rescues you. When you combine all 6 foods on this list, you don't just have groceries, you have a survival system that works on a budget. How these 6 foods work together on their own, each of these foods is useful. Together, they form a system, and that's the part most people miss. Preparedness isn't about stacking random items. It's about building a pantry that functions under pressure. Here's how this system works in real life. White rice provides the bulk calories that keep hunger under control. It's the foundation: cheap, predictable, and long-lasting. Dry beans and lentils supply the protein your body needs to stay strong. Combined with rice, they form complete meals that can be repeated day after day without nutritional collapse. Cooking oil turns those staples into real survival food. It boosts calories, supports body function, and prevents the slow weakness that shows up when fat intake is too low. Salt keeps everything working, protects electrolyte balance, makes food edible, and allows preservation if you ever need to stretch resources further. Rolled oats reduce fuel use and decision fatigue. On low-energy days, they give you fast calories without draining supplies or morale. And canned protein bridges the gap when cooking simply isn't possible. Yes. Your safety valve. The food that buys you time and stability when conditions aren't ideal. Notice what's missing here. No expensive freeze-dried meals, no specialty survival foods. No dependence on constant resupply, just foods that store well, cost little work without power scale for families. That's why this system works on a budget. You don't need endless options. You need reliable repetition. Once these 6 foods are in place, everything else spices, canned vegetables. Comfort foods becomes optional layering, not survival essentials. And now, let us talk about how to actually build this system without blowing your budget or overwhelming your space. Budget build strategy? This is where most people freeze up. They see a long list, do the math in their head, and think, I can't afford this right now. The truth is, you don't build food security in one trip. You build it gradually. Here's a realistic way to do it. Rule number 1. Buy calories first when money is limited. Calories come before variety. Your first purchases should always be white rice, dry beans or lentils, cooking oil. Those 3 alone can carry a family further than most full pantries. A simple strategy. Set aside $20, $30 per week by bulk when possible. Focus on price per pound, not brand. Within 8 to 12 weeks, you'll have a meaningful reserve. Rule number 2. Layer. Don't rush once the base is built. Start adding oats, canned protein, salt. These improve flexibility and reduce stress, but they're not where you start. Rule number 3. Storage over space. You don't need a basement or spare room. Closets under beds, along walls, high shelves, food-grade buckets stack vertically and fit into tight spaces. Keep everything off the floor, away from heat, and protected from moisture. Rule number 4. Rotation beats perfection. You will not store perfectly. That's fine. Label containers with food type, month, and year. Packed. Rotate oils and canned foods into normal meals. Dry staples last long enough that mistakes rarely cost you. Rule number 5. Don't wait for someday. Preparedness doesn't happen when everything feels stable. It happens when you act before you're forced to. I don't need to finish today. You just need to start. And now, let's close this out with the mindset that separates prepared families from panicked ones. Here's what matters most when this video ends. Preparedness isn't about fear, and it isn't about extremes. It's about quiet stability. Knowing your family can eat even when conditions aren't ideal. Most people never build that buffer. It's not because they don't care, but because they assume they'll have time to react. History shows that assumption fails more often than it holds. By focusing on just 6 foods, you've simplified the problem. You've removed guesswork. You've built a system that works even on a tight budget. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be finished. You just need to be ahead of yesterday. Every bag of rice, every bucket of beans, every small step forward. That's how resilience is built. If this helped you, share it with someone you care about. Preparedness spreads best when families and communities prepare together. Subscribe to Wise Prepper for practical, no-nonsense guidance you can actually use. And if you have questions or want a deeper breakdown on any of these foods, drop them in the comments. You don't prepare because you're afraid. You prepare because you're responsible. Start now.